Takashi Kimura experiences a social break from his longtime friend Raya Miyamoto at the start of the semester. When he goes outside to grieve, he observes a zombie apocalypse at the front of the school, which he refers to as them. Takashi warns Rie and his closest friend, Hisashi Igo, who is currently dating Rie, and flees with them just as word of the attack spreads throughout the school, sparking panic. The three attempt an emergency call, but it is futile because the cops are dealing with too many calls. When they encounter Mr. Wakisaka, an instructor transformed into a zombie, Rie beats him off using her martial arts skills. Despite dealing tremendous blows, the attacks do not appear to be effective. Hisashi is bitten in the arm as he rushes to save her, and Takashi kills it by shattering its skull. They lock themselves on the rooftop, oblivious to the horror in the school, while self-defense force helicopters swoop in to confront the zombie epidemic in the city. Hisashi begins to deteriorate as a result of his wounds. He begs Takashi to kill him before turning into a zombie, since he does not want to become similar to the rest, and Takashi is compelled to murder him against Rie's protestations. Takashi decides to leave after a reprimand from Rie to face the remainder of the zombies on his own, but Rie begs him to stay because he is the only one she has and convinces him that she didn't mean what she said. Takashi then cradles her in his arm while she sobs her eyes out. While two more survivors, Saya Takeji and Kota Verano, struggle to evade the zombies, Rie tries to reach her father, but he doesn't appear to recognize her. He abruptly stops the conversation after informing them that the city is in total disarray. Meanwhile, Shizuka Mirakawa, the school nurse, is besieged by zombies in her room. Her assistant attempts to deal with them but is bitten, and the Kendo Club president Seiko Butsujima enters, murdering her assistant at his request and saving the nurse. With Saya's help, Kota assembles a nail gun and begins blasting zombies left and right, giving them a significant advantage in the battle against zombies. Rie advises Takashi to use the water pressure to repel zombies, allowing them to use massive water pipes to stop the undead on their end. As Kota's ammo runs out and Saya begins to crack under strain, she is assaulted by a zombie. She takes up a drilling machine and kills the zombie because she has nothing to defend herself with. As she finds her garments soaked in blood, she psychologically collapses due to the stress. When the other survivors hear her scream, they rush to the area and join them in taking out the zombies. As they prepare to travel to Takashi's home to check on the security of their households, they discover that the epidemic is even worse than they had anticipated, with streets, offices, and schools all overrun with zombies. The survivors are stunned to discover that the zombie outbreak has expanded globally. While they are watching TV, a news reporter states that over 10,000 people have been victimized in the Saitama area before being attacked by a zombie. Takashi tries a theory on avoiding zombies based on how they may only react to sound after meeting another group of survivors. His idea is proven correct when they discover that zombies cannot see. However, as one of the survivors makes an unintentional sound, they are forced to battle their way through a horde on their way toward the bus, losing numerous lives in the process. When they see another set of survivors arriving, Rie knows one of the professors, Koichi Shido, and is reluctant to allow him to join them. In a pathetic attempt to rescue himself, the teacher strikes another student who needs assistance. Despite this, the gang allows him to board their bus. Shido, the teacher, suggests that someone lead them when they get out of school. Rie becomes stubborn about Shido selecting himself as the leader and gets off the bus because he is eager to become the leader. As Takashi tries to persuade her to go back on the bus, another bus full of zombies crashes and confines them in a passageway, forcing them to wait for the other survivors. Takashi and Rie uncover a zombie motorcyclist's motorcycle and ride it toward town after fighting it. When Rie asks if he has a driver's license, he joyfully responds that driving without a license is one of the student's privileges. Takashi's perspective is used to retell the events of the past. He recalls how everything around him seemed weird to him. Takashi and Rie remain on their way around the city until they come upon a police cruiser. Rie explores the vehicle after the occupants have been killed and finds an extendable baton, a revolver, and several rounds. When they run out of petrol for their motorcycle, they arrive at a service station to fill up the tank. Rie is ambushed by a crazed survivor who takes her captive and sexually assaults her, while Takashi walks to a nearby cash register to run the petrol pump. Takashi is warned to leave or he will stab her. Takashi instantly shoots him point blank in an attempt to save Rie and get out of the location, allowing Rie to escape. Because of the gun's loudness, the area immediately becomes infested with zombies, and they assault the survivor. Takashi and Rie refill their motorcycle and resume their journey, leaving the survivor to die at the hands of the approaching zombies. Rika Minami and her special assault team assist in the escape of civilians at Kansai International Airport by removing zombies from the runway. Meanwhile, Takashi and Rie discover that all of the crossings have been sealed by the military and police to prevent infected citizens from entering after fleeing a war zone between crazy survivors and zombies. A group of students attempting to cross the bridge is halted by police, who advise them to return. Due to the students' perseverance, the cops are forced to assault them by blasting them with high-pressure water and shoving them off the bridge. As Koda awakens, Saya swiftly describes the whole incident, including Shido's harassment and manipulation of pupils. Saya, Koda, Seiko, and Shizuka decide to leave since they see no benefit in remaining with him. On the other hand, Shido protests Shizuka's leaving since they need her aid in driving the bus. Koda takes out his homemade rifle and tells him how long he has held a grudge against him, then persuades him by threatening to murder him, and they travel to Onbetsu Bridge, where they face more zombies and are saved by Takashi and Rie, who rapidly fend off the remaining zombies. Noticing a Humvee is parked outside, Shizuka advises that they remain at the flat where her friend Rika resides for the night. With zombies inhabiting the area, the party walks inside to battle them. After cleaning up the flat, the girls take a bath and Rie taunts Shizuka and Seiko about their massive boobs and fondles them. On the other hand, the boys inspect the household's guns and ammo, as Koda appears to know a lot more about them and is a gun enthusiast. Meanwhile, the police assigned at the barricade are under attack from both zombies and citizens attempting to cross the bridge, including a group of demonstrators led by a conspiracy theorist who claims the virus is a biological weapon used by the US and Japanese governments. With no aid from headquarters, the cops are told to use lethal force to keep the roadblock in order. They begin murdering everybody who tries to traverse the bridge, even civilians. Shizuka arrives behind Takashi and Koda, wearing nothing but towel, and begins kissing them. Takashi brings her to bed since he sees she is too drunk and drowsy to walk. However, he is met by Rie, who is envious of the scenario. He then goes to the kitchen and sees Seiko. When he calls her by her second name, she tells him to call her by her first name since she prefers her friends to use that. Rie soon calls out for him, telling him not to keep her waiting any longer. Takashi then joins Rie on the stairs and begins arguing. They eventually decide to kiss one another when they hear a disturbance outside and go to investigate. After that, a dog, eventually identified as Zero, begins barking outside, attracting zombies. Meanwhile, while the cops are defending themselves, suddenly one of them commits suicide. While Takashi and others observe the situation, a father tries to find refuge for his daughter, Alice Murasato. However, as he reaches a particular home and asks for their assistance, a spear goes clean through his chest when the door opens. The paranoid survivors murder him without even allowing his daughter to seek refuge. In his final moments, the father calms her daughter and encourages her to flee and hide elsewhere. When Alice's cries lure the zombies, Takashi chooses to ride his bike to her rescue, running over the undead along the way. Koda, on the other hand, serves as a sniper, eliminating any zombie that comes too close to Alice. Meanwhile, the girls, having decided they can no longer remain at the flat, pack their belongings and prepare to leave. Takashi uses a towel to hide her father's face, offers Alice a flower as a consolation, and chooses to carry her on his back. Takashi, Alice, and Zero slowly cross the top of the barrier as the streets fill with zombies. Alice abruptly informs him that she has reached her limit and needs to pee. Takashi has no choice but to encourage her to ease herself while on his back, but owing to the sudden warm back, his attention wanders and he nearly falls off the fence. Fortunately, the others arrive to assist him, and they kill as many zombies as they can while reaching him. When they are reunited, they all decide to travel to the opposite side of the river. They have no idea what awaits them there, but they have no other option to defend themselves. The zombies successfully enter Air Force One Department HQs. With both the chairman and the president sick, the chairman urges the president to fire their ICBMs, believing that the other nations will launch theirs at the US before succumbing to the infection and turning into a zombie. Meanwhile, Takashi's crew is sailing over the river to the opposite side. When they reach the opposite side, no humans or zombies can be found. Shizuka offers the girls some garments she got from a friend's apartment. They decide to go to Saya's house first, because it is nearby after changing and becoming acquainted with new weaponry. As they near their target, they encounter more zombies, and an unforeseen wire fence leads Rei to tumble off the Humvee. To repel the zombies, the others must contend with random weaponry and their own bravery. Takashi uses Rei to support his strong weapon, which he cannot use when standing. When he realizes he is out of ammo, he begins crushing the zombies with his gun and advances onward. Outmatched, Takashi and Seiko attempt to guide them away, but they are still attracted in the direction of the others. As the situation worsens, they are aided by a team of firefighters commanded by Saya's mom, Yuriko Takagi, whereas Takashi and Seiko pursue a different path. As Koda's group prepares to leave, Saya informs Takashi and Seiko that they will meet again at her house. Takashi and Seiko resolve to seek something that can assist them in escaping away from the zombies because they have no other option. To avoid the zombies, the two acquire an amphibious vehicle and set up camp on a sandbank in the middle of the river. They must, however, remain on the bank of a river because Seiko's garments have become wet and they decide to rest for a few minutes there. Later, they abandon their truck in a park pool to attract zombies as Seiko attacks them. When she comes upon several zombie children though, Seiko freezes. Takashi observes this and goes to her aid, killing the undead. As night falls, the two decide to camp in a temple, where Seiko asks Takashi if he would be interested in hearing her past story, to which he agrees. She admits that she nearly murdered a rapist a few years ago when he assaulted her at night, but as she began pounding him with a wooden sword, she began to love it. She goes on to say that she hasn't improved since that moment and that she doesn't deserve love. Takashi, on the other hand, replies by kissing her. The following day, when zombies surround them, Seiko, who despises her nasty side, caves in and chooses not to fight back. On the other hand, Takashi approaches her from behind and begins fondling her breasts, telling her that he has always liked her and inspiring her to slay the zombies with a real sword. With Takashi's motivation, she charges against the undead and easily defeats them. Takashi and Seiko arrive safely at Saya's residence after accepting their dark aspects. Rie is not feeling well, so Shizuka, the school nurse, tends to her. She asks Takashi to hold her while she injects her with medicine. After spending a day in Saya's strongly protected mansion, the party must choose whether to stay with her family and servants and be treated as children, or to strike off on their own and keep their independence. Saya is furious at her father for assuming she had been dead during the breakout while taking action to protect the neighbors, but Takashi swiftly approaches her and yells at her, calming her down because her parents are alive. Saya's father, Soichiro Takagi, a prominent Japanese right-wing nationalist politician, comes and murders his aristocratic zombie buddy, whom he calls a nobleman, in front of the survivors in the mansion to demonstrate their present position. Soichiro's men approach Kota, carrying firearms, and begin roughly removing the weapons from him, treating them like children. He begins pleading with them to let him carry because weapons are the only thing he is competent at. Takashi and the rest of the group rush to his defense as he fears the pistol will be taken away from him. When Soichiro comes to interrogate Kota, the others defend him, claiming that he is the one who has been protecting his daughter up to this point. Saya informs her father that if it hadn't been for Kota, she would have turned into a zombie. Meanwhile, one of Shido's pupils reports the situation at the house to Shido, who supervises an orgy between the students. Saya attempts to pacify a group of people, refusing to accept their present conditions. Takashi is surprised when the others choose him as the leader. In his room, he is approached by Rie, who proposes to him and admits that they will always be together. Takashi describes her reasoning as raw, but concedes that all women are. Takashi leans on Rie, who is waiting for him, and she leaves the room. Soichiro subsequently offers Seiko a valued katana in appreciation for defending his daughter, and to Seiko's father for training him. Shido and his supporters appear at the mansion as the party discusses arrangements to go and save the remaining family, and an enraged Rie runs up to him with her rifle. Rie explains that she despises Shido since his father, a crooked politician, instructed him to compel Rie to repeat a year, as retaliation for her father's corruption investigation. Shido advises her to murder him since his sole honorable success as a teacher would be her haunting nightmares. Soichiro appears and informs Rie that Shido's destiny is in her hands, but Rie determines that he is not worth murdering. Shido and his supporters flee after being discovered. Elsewhere, the succeeding president has instructed a U.S. submarine to conduct a disputed preemptive nuclear attack against China, North Korea, and Russia, whereas the crew of the International Space Station stares in fear as both the U.S. and Russia fire ICBMs at each other. The United States and Japan are collaborating to fire down Chinese missile attacks after China launched a variety of DF-21 ballistic missile types in response to the now unsuccessful American preemptive nuclear strikes. However, one missile gets through the combined U.S.-Japanese air defenses and explodes somewhere in Japan. Machines and electronics nearby the nuclear explosion malfunctioned due to the EMP burst, causing Shido's bus to crash and demolish one of the barriers. With a massive horde of zombies approaching the estate, Soichiro commands the main gate to be locked, but the overpowering zombies break it, sparking fear among the survivors, including those who oppose Soichiro and verbally accosted Saya, Kota, and Takashi. The Takagists tell their troops and the surviving survivors to battle and flee to another secure spot that has not yet been broken, as the mansion is no longer safe. Despite Saya's protests, the Takagists abandon her protection to Takashi and the others as they battle their way to their EMP-unaffected Humvee. The gang exits the mansion, their vehicle repaired, as the survivors battle against the horde. Knowing that her kid will be secure with her friends, the Takagists resolve to go all in against the zombies. Takashi's gang faces zombies in various locations, but with the proper weaponry, they easily resist them. Despite the circumstances, the party remains upbeat as they arrive at a mall on foot.